Okay, what up ladies and gents, it's your favorite Asian robot right here, hopefully your favorite Darktide YouTuber, and today I'm actually going to give you guys my Zealot build. This was actually supposed to come out tomorrow, but the win rate has been so high, even with complete randoms in Auric Damnation, that I actually decided to give you guys the build right now. This build is actually a hella scuffed build that I made with some advice from chat, slapped together, cobbled it together. It wasn't really supposed to work this well. It was just supposed to be something that like helped me dip my feet into Zealot. But the thing is that it actually works so well and has such a high win rate that I figured I may as well give it to you guys. So what I'm going to say before I even talk about the talents though, is that this is generally a Zealot build for players that don't play like Zealots. So coming from Psyker and Veteran over to Zealot, whole different playstyle. I'm not really that aggressive of a player. So this build actually helped me bridge the gap while maintaining very high damage as well as great team support ability, right? So that's basically what it's all about. You know, I call this the Zealot Paladin build because basically you're like the Paladin of the team. The heavy front line doesn't even matter how much damage you take. Let's get into this right now. Here's the camera vanish. Okay, now you guys have heard the introduction. Let me talk about my Paladin build. So if you want to become a Paladin, first and foremost, what you got to understand is that this build is going to be a little bit scuffed and very heavy on defense. One of the major things you got to understand here is that we do not run any sort of cooldown reduction. Okay, why do we avoid cooldown reduction? Because it is not necessary for this build. You should not be spamming your Chorus of Spiritual Fortitude. If you start spamming this, you are doomed already. Okay? I'm going to go through the build right from the top, but basically this thing has succeeded in almost every single kind of run that we've put it through, whatever modifiers, high intensity shock troopers. Like I said, it wasn't even supposed to work this well, but it apparently does, so I'm going to show you what we've got. Now, for part 1 of the talent tree, what you want to have is Disdain. 5% damage on your next melee attack for each enemy hit. It stacks up to 5 times. Alright, so you can get up to 25% extra damage on your next melee attack for each enemy hit. This is to help you clear hordes faster. Your first swing will not be heavily loaded, but your second swing is gonna hurt. Enemies within, enemies without. You replenish 2.5% toughness per second while within 5 meters of at least 3 enemies. This is your toughness regeneration while within a horde, and this is what will help you hold the line when you really need it. Okay? Toughness boost is for the base toughness stat, and Vicious Offering is absolutely necessary because you replenish 7.5% toughness on a heavy attack kill. Take note that this only applies to your heavy swings from your hammer, not your specially charged attack, alright? But in hordes, once again, this will help you keep up your toughness, and it is exceptionally useful, even outside of hordes, because you will basically never be using your light attack, except in very specific circumstances. You will generally make good use of Vicious Offering. Okay. From the middle tree, now this is just your starter, but the middle tree is where you really get your good stuff. Anointed Blood helps you deal more base range damage. All right. This is what will allow you to take on Ragers and other types of enemies with your shotgun. This Anointed Blood is exceptionally useful for this. Next, Purge the Unclean. You deal increased damage against infested and unyielding enemies. This alone is exceptionally useful not only against hordes, but also against the Ogryns. Alright? Specifically the Bulwark and the Reaper, you will be able to one-shot them with your hammer just by using this. Next, Toughness Boost. Toughness Boost doesn't need explaining. Restoring Faith is important because when you take damage, you heal 25% of whatever damage you take, and this occurs over 5 seconds. This is exceptionally useful because you will be taking a lot of damage, and it makes sense to be able to restore that damage as well. So take note that this only affects whatever damage you take to your health, yeah? Your Immolation Grenade is exceptionally useful. When you've got a big mixed horde coming in and the pressure is on, throw your Immolation Grenade, watch the entire thing melt. This Blitz is so good. I do like the Stun Grenade, but quite frankly, compared to the Immolation Grenade, I prefer the Immolation Grenade just because of what it offers, yeah? Toughness Boost is what you grab here. Then you want to grab the Emperor's Bullet. Now this is not really very useful. It only works for 5 seconds after you empty your ranged weapon, but its use is quite dependent. Sometimes in the field I don't even take into account whether I have this or not, because what I really want is Shield of Contempt. Shield of Contempt makes it so that when you or an ally in coherency takes damage, they gain 60% damage reduction for 4 seconds. It triggers once every 10 seconds. And it is so good. 60% damage reduction and triggering every 10 seconds. So as long as you're not continuously taking a lot of damage, this can save your life. And it can also save you on taking a lot of damage. So Shield of Contempt, that's what you want. That's what you need. I find it very good for keeping the entire team alive. Melee boost, obviously, good choice. Movement speed boost, then you want Until Death. Fatal damage grants you invulnerability for 5 seconds, and it's on a 2-minute cooldown, which actually is pretty short if you think about it, unless you are always dying, so please try not to die all the time, yeah? Holy Revenant. When Until Death ends, so after the 5 seconds, you regain health based on the damage you dealt during Until Death, up to a maximum of 25% of your max health. Melee damage dealt heals for 3 times that amount, but the maximum you can get back is only 25%. So if you deal enough damage during Until Death, you will basically heal up to, say, if I've got 230 hit points, you will heal back up to about 50 something hit points, which is pretty much good enough to survive, I'll be honest with you. This is actually what works perfectly with a martyrdom build, and this is a martyrdom based build. So this is how you survive quite a bit of stuff in the field. All right, next you want Benediction, then Toughness Boost, and Toughness Damage Reduction. After that, you will grab your Chorus of Spiritual Fortitude. You will wield a Holy Relic that releases a pulse of energy every 0.8 seconds, while channeling allies in coherency have stun immunity and invulnerability. People forget about that. Allies in coherency have stun immunity and invulnerability. Not you, but your allies do, which means your allies can go ham on whatever is attacking. Save your enemies during a demon host, do whatever you want. Each pulse replenishes 45% toughness to allies in coherency. If your ally is already at full toughness, they instead gain 20 max toughness, up to a total of 100 extra additional toughness. It's got a 60-second base cooldown, and if you grab Banishing Light, each pulse from the Chorus of Spiritual Fortitude also staggers and suppresses enemies. The range increases with every pulse. This is how you can hold the line, stop monstrosities. Now, only the first and the last pulse will stun a monstrosity, okay? But it can still be used against monstrosities. Do not make that mistake that it cannot be used against them. Sure, you can't knock them off cliffs now, okay? So you can't cheese them, but you can seriously help your allies with this. This is part 2 of the tree, okay? Part 1 up here. Now let's go on to part 3. After you grab your Banishing Light, what you want is your toughness damage reduction here. Grab your melee damage boost, and grab Sustained Assault. 4% melee damage for 5 seconds on hitting an enemy with a melee attack. Stacks up to 5 times. This gives you a total of 20% additional melee damage. It's so good. 20% additional melee damage is a lot, and this is what will actually help you take out hordes so easily. Faithful Frenzy, 10% increased melee attack speed. I would never give this up for anything else, because this is what's going to make your hammer really go hammering. Alright? Health boost, 10%. Faith's Fortitude, the 2 wounds are to boost your martyrdom. Each missing wound grants you 8% melee damage up to 9 missing wounds. Okay, this is brutally insane. I Shall Not Fall also gives you 5% toughness damage reduction per missing wound. And Martyrdom grants you 4% attack speed per missing wound. It gets crazy. It gets crazy, okay? So with this build in Damnation, right, when we get into the gear and stuff, what you realize is that we have 6 wounds in total. That means you can get up to 4 times 5, 20% additional attack speed, and you can get 30% additional toughness damage reduction. That's a hell of a lot of toughness damage reduction. Alright? Combine that with the 10% that you already get within the tree, and from your aura, another 15%. That's a lot of toughness damage reduction. Okay? And this is just what makes you an exceptionally good Paladin tank. But your damage doesn't slouch either. Let's take a look at the weapons and the Curios, and I'll show you why you can deal plenty of damage. Okay, now, let's talk about gear choices. In terms of gear choices, what you're going to want is your Crucis Mark II Thunderhammer. This one, try to roll all stats as good as possible. Why? Because damage increases your damage. Crowd control increases your light and heavy attack speed, which you really want. This is like different from finesse, but it also affects your cleave damage distribution, your heavy attack stagger duration. Yeah, you really want crowd control as high as possible. Okay. The minimum that I would accept is 70% for this. Damage, same thing. Minimum is 70%. Penetration, now I've heard some stuff about this, but quite frankly, just get it above 70 if you can. All right. It's still useful. It helps you against flak and carapace armor targets. There's no reason not to have it. Defenses, again, the lowest I would accept is around 60%. Many people use defenses as a dump stat, but it actually affects your sprint cost, your push cost, your dodge distance, and your dodge speed. You really want this. Your hammer only has 3 dodges, so you know. But what you also need to understand is that without defenses, your hammer dodges are going to suck even more than they already do. So please be very, very aware of this. Although, defenses may not be important to everybody, it is to me. So try to at least get it 60, 65. Okay, ideally also above 70. First target, again, also very important. Why? Because if you don't have this as high as possible, your Thunderhammer special attack hits aren't going to deal as much damage as they should. So really, the problem with the Thunderhammer is that you cannot sacrifice any stats if you want to use this. Alright? You have to try and roll everything as high as possible. So that'd be my advice. It can take a lot of dockets to get a perfect hammer. So get ready to roll a lot. Alright? In terms of your perks and blessings, now this is a whole nother area that is absolutely painful. You must roll at least 1 perk. Carapace armored enemies. You must roll at least 1 blessing as head taker. Why? Head taker gives you 4.5% power at tier 3. Of course, ideally you want tier 4. It'll give you 4.5% power for 3.5 seconds on hit. Stacks up to 5 times. Power affects your stagger, damage, speed. It affects everything. So more power is good. The other thing is that thrust. Now this one you will want to get, like, you want to roll either of these 2 blessings, but thrust also should be tier 4. I only have a tier 3 at the moment, but it grants you up to 15% power based on the charge time of your heavy attacks. Stacks 3 times. This is what will allow you to really smack down your enemies with the hammer. What exactly can you do with this hammer? Well, now that you understand all the perks, let me show you. What exactly can you do with this hammer? You can 2-shot crushers with a properly charged attack, like so. You can damn near 1-shot a mauler, okay? Although it might be a little difficult to do so. Sometimes in the field, if the mauler's already taken some hits, you can 1-shot them. You can definitely 1-shot a mutie, even without a critical hit. You can, with a bit of saved up power, you can get close to 1-shotting a rager. Like so. Okay? So this is what you can do with this amazing hammer using a heavy swing. Don't use the light swing because it is exceptionally weak. The light swing will not do shit. Okay? Make sure it's a heavy swing. And then you can watch enemies go flying. Okay? You like seeing enemies fly? You can do that. Fun fact, you can also do this. Properly charge up your attack or go for the head, and yeah, there you go. Enemies get obliterated with this hammer. So you can do the same thing with monstrosities, by the way. You can't one-shot them with this build. This is not a monstrosity one-shot build, but you can deal exceptionally high damage. You want to go fight the demon host? Just get somebody to tank it for a short while. They only need to last for a little bit of time, and you can help them last with your Chorus of Spiritual Fortitude. Then go bonk crazy with the hammer. Okay, we've done it live on stream. Even with my crappy zealot skills, we have managed to smack down demon hosts. No problem. Carry on the run with no issue. That's the best part about this build. It's so good for everything thanks to the hammer. But you have to roll a really good hammer. Okay? Okay, camera vanish. Now, let's get on to the ranged weapon. You've heard about the melee weapon. The ranged weapon, for me, there is only one choice with this build. Why? The Kantrael Mark 9 combat shotgun is exceptionally vicious. Brown body, this is the high damage version of the shotgun, but it's also a very close range, widespread type gun. You cannot use it at long range very well. You still can if you really need to shoot that sniper, but you cannot use it very well at long range. Okay, I'm gonna tell you that in advance. I've weak shot hit snipers at like 38 meters, and I still need a second shot to bring them down. But what you can do is really brutalize your opponents at close range. What you want on this thing, my personal choice, is flak armored enemies. Why? This is designed to help you with ragers, okay, and several other targets, just gunners. So having flak armored enemies is a really good modifier to have on this. Okay, the other one, I was very lucky to roll range damage elites, but you can roll whatever you want on the second perk, okay? What is even more important is actually your blessings. Full bore and no respite are necessary. You cannot replace any of this. Okay, why? Full bore gives you 20% power for 5 seconds when every bullet in a shot hits the same enemy. How easy is it to trigger? Just ADS, and it will trigger. Next, no respite will give you up to 18% damage on hit for a staggered enemy, scaling with stagger. Okay, how good is this gun? Well, we'll find out shortly, but first, stats. Damage and stopping power. Both of these are exceptionally necessary. Take note, however, that these shotguns only apply a damage bonus versus unarmored and infested targets when you are near to them. Okay, which means as far as I'm concerned, I think that is about 10 meters. I will get confirmation for you when I do the analysis of the shotguns. Okay, mobility. This is your dumb stat. Don't have to care about this. Stability must be above 70. Damage minimum is 70. Try to get it as high as possible. Stopping power must be as high as possible. Try to get it above 75. Okay, this affects your damage versus armored targets of any kind. And much like with all other guns that have stopping power, this is a necessity. All right, ammo, try to roll it as high as possible, but above 60% would be good. That being said, ideally you want this at 80 so that you can have more ammo in the field. Okay, mobility, like I said, is your dumb stat, but you know, if you happen to roll high mobility but a decent all-round stats, don't just try and re-roll for ammo. Okay, it's much more important to get your blessings and perks right for this. Now, how decent is the shotgun? Well, let's find out. If you want every pellet to hit the enemy, just do that. Okay, at close range, it's going to take off heads like nobody's business. At a slightly further range, you can do something like this. Okay, I highly recommend that if you really want full bore to hit, or you don't have confidence in it, just do something like that. Even with a body shot, you could take out most enemies, and you're still going to get your full bore. All right. This is mostly used against ragers, especially when they start coming in and they want to act a fool. Yeah, get them staggered and you can just blast them like this. If you really, really need to stagger them, hit them with the fire. Okay, the fire is piercing. Works best against lighter targets such as drag hunters and whatnot. Then after that, you can, like what I would do is the first fire shell helps me knock them down, and then I basically go to town on them. But I mean, you can use it in either way, in any way, shape, or form that you like. Keep in mind that you can still take out things like Tox Flamers, Scab Flamers with a nice weak spot hit, all that kind of thing. But you have to be at close range, and I mean kind of like this. All right, this would be close range. But assuming that you are at close range, you can literally take out targets really well. However, the spread of this gun is high, so please don't try and do shit like this. Like, if you're this far away, you're not going to do anything at all. Alright? even if you trigger full bore, your damage is going to be quite minimal. So what do you do against distant targets? You do this. Distant Ogrins, burn them. Do you see how much burn damage you can inflict on them? Yeah. You can do the same on your bulwarks as well, through your shield. So, need these bulwarks done? That's what you do, burn them out with your special shell, okay? So, you should have no trouble using the Kantrael shotgun in a variety of situations. Mauler giving you trouble? Shoot him. Some nerd giving you trouble? Shoot him. Okay, like that. This is what I often do in the field. I'll just like 2-tap a Mauler like that. Hit him with the burn, then hit him in the body with a shot. Once they're staggered, they take a lot of damage, they're done. Alright, so don't think of your shotgun as weak. This is your supplement in case you need to do the job that your teammates cannot. This Kantrael shotgun is exceptionally useful. Don't sleep on this, okay? Don't sleep on this. Now, Curios. Curios are the last thing I'm going to cover, alright? And yes, I just showed my face for 5 seconds. Why? Because I'm vain. Okay, I'm kidding. But when it comes to Curios, right? I found that only one way works for this. You cannot replace this. Okay, I've tried different combinations, did not work. This is the hands down best combination for this particular build. Number one, you want to have a wound Curio with stamina regeneration, at least 10%. Get yourself damage resistance against gunners and combat ability regeneration. You must get combat ability regeneration across at least 8%. Okay, why? This will help reduce your Chorus of Spiritual Fortitude's cooldown by about 5 to 6 seconds. It is without a doubt very useful. If you do not do this, you are going to have a bad time, okay? Damage resistance against gunners is a must-have, as well as stamina regeneration, okay? Stamina regeneration applies across the board. I found that having about at least 2 stamina regenerations is good. Then I've got some toughness regeneration speed here. But if you really feel that you don't need the toughness regeneration, that's okay. Go straight for even more stamina regeneration. This will allow you to regenerate stamina faster. Unfortunately, I only have 1+3 stamina Curio. That is the last Curio you're going to need. Go for damage resistance gunners and either stamina regeneration or toughness regeneration speed. Up to you. Up to you. For me, I found that I don't really need the toughness regeneration speed, but I also don't need more stamina regeneration than 20%, to be honest. So I put toughness regeneration here, and I've got max health there. If you want, you can even go for combat ability regeneration, but the main factor is that you must have 2+1 wound Curios and 1+3 stamina Curios. The perks can be, whatever is needed for your character. But damage resistance gunners is necessary across the board, otherwise you're going to get spammed to death in Auric Damnation, and you really, really don't want that to happen, okay? Stamina regeneration will basically allow you to do funny stuff like pushing things constantly while dodging backward, push things, dodge backward, push things, dodge backwards, kind of like that. You can create a lot of space in the field, and it just gives you a lot of options in hordes. Push them, whack. I know it's fun to go to town, but sometimes you just gotta push in between, whack, whack, whack. It just feels so good, and it's so easy to do. All right, that is literally it for this build. That's all you need to know about this build. We've covered everything that you need step by step. You should be able to construct the same thing. The only thing that you're probably going to have trouble with is getting the actual armaments done for this. Now, one last thing before we go is that I am going to say that this build does involve a little bit of a weirder playstyle. You are not as aggressive as most Zealots would be. Rather, you are a very, very team player-based Zealot. You don't really run off on your own. You kind of stick with your team. You act as this amazing bodyguard that fights the hordes, holds the line, and if some guy tries to act wise, you crack them with your hammer, all right? If you need a demonstration of how to play this build, how do you play this build properly? The combat demonstration is found in a link in the description of this video, or you can click the card that showed up for a little while up top. You can click that, and it will take you to the combat demonstration on my sub channel. It is exceptionally important that you check out the combat demonstration if you're unsure how to play this build, if you have not seen it on stream. If you've already seen it on stream, chances are you know how I play this build, okay? But if you don't, the combat demonstration is there for you, all right? Thank you very much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy my content. If you want to see more of your sexy Asian robot, if you want to see more of the Walk the People's Champion, like, share, and subscribe. That tells me that you enjoy what I'm doing. And now, before we go, allow me to thank all the amazing people that have made this possible. Okay? Starting right at the top, our top tipper right now is Zavi Zumaki. Our top super chatter is Chris. Our top super chatter list goes to Who's Poppin', Wild Hunt, Scott Walker, Death Donnie 982, Chris Bub 88, HD Pork, and our top channel membership gifter is Nightshade. Thank you guys so much. Please allow me to also thank our amazing channel members who make all these videos possible. All right, here are our zany peeps. Starting right at the top, we have Death Donnie 982 at Plus Ultra. We've got Yuri, Jason Kun, Jerry Fast, Rogue Assassin, Zach FG at Prestige. Thank you guys so much. Thank you to our honored robots as well. Thank you to Yuno, BVS Fang, Vikram Bao, Chris Mob, Commander Farsight, Day, Atomica, Emix, Jordan Cost, Cordova, Yabs, Nightshade, Devin Lashin, Mookie Mocha, Rena, Chase Taylor, Nathan Strong, Lady Neo, Joey Danze, Sayed Assad, Coda CMF, Kami SMH, and Conrad C. Benjamin Savage. Thank you guys so much. For any of our honored channel members, if you guys want into the family Discord, please comment on the post that I shared to members only. Just tell me your Discord name. I'll get you in the Discord. Okay? Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys on the next one. Get you later.